but we play their A team, so they'll have a double A team, then they have an A team, and we're beating their A team pretty easily, not easily, but we do beat them. And so competition is really uneven, and programs change because of I don't know what, demographics for sure. And then of course lacrosse has become very big, so kids are off skipping hockey practice to go to lacrosse practice in the middle of the winter. And we play lacrosse as a spring and summer sport here. It's not, I don't know what you guys do. You play box lacrosse up there, but we don't have much of that here. So,
yeah. And Wally, as a more serious note, Connecticut being a very small state, there is, I'm not going to say maybe more than you need, but so there's 6 prep schools in Connecticut, all within roughly about 45 minutes of each other. So you've got that. That's a high level where those players will go and certainly play Division III, but many will play Division I. You know, in the years I was there, 12 years, we had, I think, 150 kids play collegiately, probably 80 of them Division I, and 70 Division III, and then the remainder club hockey. Then there's, after that, there's the AAA programs, of which there are, probably 4 or 5 legitimate ones. There are then in Connecticut, I want to say 4 junior hockey teams, right, which are mainly the kids 17 to 20 on those. There are 4 NCAA Division I colleges in the state, and then an additional 4 Division III colleges. So there's a lot of hockey packed into a very small state.
Yeah. Well, guys, the reason I wanted to bring that topic up is in Calgary, the league that Tom's coaching in and that I work with, it is called Elite. The title it's been given, and I believe the Tom's division of U15s is named AA, but it may be called AAA next year, reducing the team by the number of teams from 3 to 2, and supposedly making it more competitive, hopefully to help kids get to a higher level. So I think when you use the word elite, the idea is your goal is to try to get the kids to the top, to the next level. But I'm wondering, why do the players play? Do they do that from the get-go, or do they get serious about it later, or are they figuring out who they want to be and what they want to be? I think the most important thing is know your why. So, Tom, why do your kids play on your team? You're a speaker, Tom.
guys, I'm gonna have to jump on another call for a few minutes with a client. I'll be back with you guys.
Thanks, Al.
Okay. Well, I can't really give the reason. They seem to like it because they show up to practice and they work hard and they have fun with each other. I think a lot of them play just because of the, they're good players for their age group. Well, I'm sure there's status in playing and, the highest level. The parents have to be committed at this age because they have to drive them everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Get in U18, at least the girls got cars, but right now the parents, everybody's got to get the kids to Max Bell by 4:00 today.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment right there. And yeah, but they really seem to enjoy it. They have fun with each other, and and they like to play and they compete really hard. So I think they enjoy the experience.
I have to agree with you, Tom. I watch them play. I watch the U13s practice, and they're enjoying it. They're camaraderie on the ice, socially, it's really high. They're positive, they're laughing, they're keen. They're having fun and working hard to get better. Now, Peter, my question, and you've got your hand up. I'll let you go after I ask you this question. The we're sort of working with the very best, and of course, the people who have created the association and put the teams into these tiers. It seems that their expectation is winning and getting to the top, being your best. But boy, it's distorting things there. And I think we've got a handle on it in our association. But there still are a few, and I don't think kids that are absolutely crazy about themselves doing better. I think it's parents. So go ahead, Peter, with your line of questioning.
Sure. Well, it's really a comment to what pretty much what you're talking about there. And I think one of the things that I have seen over the years, recent years especially, is because there are so many options for these kids. I think many of them leave too soon. They leave their town organization too soon, because I'll tell you, when you go to the high school games in Connecticut, not the prep school games, but the high school games, they have Division 1, 2, and 3, and we have a Division 2 team local.
Still there, Peter?
What's that?
Austria.
Oh, am I there?
Yep.
The
You said we
amount
have
of
a Division
AAA
2 team, and then kind of lost it for a second.
Yeah, Division 2 teams in Connecticut for high school. There's 1, 2, and 3, and we've got all of them in Connecticut. But when you go to a practice early on in the season, before they all get their bags and their hoodies and all that cool stuff they get, the amount of bags that you see from all the different elite or AAA organizations are staggering. And these kids are all back on their Division 2 high school team, or in some cases Division 1, Division 3 high school teams, but they all could have been playing for their local organization together, but they all end up back. So many of them, not all of them, but so many of them end up back on their high school teams, simply because that wasn't in their future. Prep school wasn't in their future. The NCAA was not in their future, but they leave easily as young as 9 years old to begin chasing this dream. And all they've really done is, help their parents put 300,000 miles on the car and spend thousands of dollars on fuel and in hotels. So so many of them end up together on those same teams. So I find that unfortunate. Dreaming is great, but I think there's a timing factor that is being missed by the parents too. Because I think if you leave too early, I think it can actually stifle your development, in that you're in an organization where maybe the talent is now diluted, and those kids, because that talent is diluted, they'll go and they'll play. I mean, some of these teams, they'll travel 3 hours to play a game and they'll lose 12-0. There's no value in that, right? But if they stayed and improved and went in steps, they could potentially have a better opportunity of getting to where they want to go. So the development piece is a piece to me that is really unfortunate. And I think in some ways the families are taken advantage of. In some ways, the families don't understand. And in some ways they just think, I'm going to go play in organization X, and just by virtue of being in that organization, my dreams will come true.
Well, I think like our spring hockey is organized more like yours. Our winter hockey is more like Little League baseball or something. You have to up until this age, they have to play where they live.
For the drone.
But come U18, they can go wherever they want. And then it becomes like you're talking about.
Yeah, see, here it's wide open. You can, there's no, you have to play in your town or any of that. So it's, and again, Connecticut's not a very large state, so it's easy for them to be mobile within the state. They drive all over. They'll have an organization in a rink 10 minutes from their house, but they'll drive 45 minutes an hour to practice to go play somewhere else.
And we're starting to get some of that breakaway leagues. Like, so there's a super league. They're way better coaches than us. They're way better everything. And so one town is Cochrane, not just west of Calgary. They were successful in recruiting a lot of the top players. They really weakened this one team in our league. But then everybody else in their league, they're doing what you say. They're winning 12-0 all the time. Because all the other teams got the kids that didn't make our division. So, what good is it doing for these kids winning by that so much, But
yeah, you're probably right. You're probably knocking those kids. Some of those kids are probably getting discouraged and just quitting the sport, which is completely opposite of what you should be trying to do.
yeah, a lot of these teams are coming on because people want to. That's their livelihood, guys. That's what they're doing for a living. There.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and it goes. I mean, it's once you get to the junior level, you'll find coaches, individuals involved with the team. They'll buy a 2-3 family house, and then they'll billet those kids in the house. So those kids come and they pay their mortgage too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah.
Is it the same for girls as it is for boys, Peter?
The girls seem to have a better handle on it. Like as far as like the tier 1, which is your highest level, where they and almost all those girls, if you make the like U16, U18 tier 1s in Connecticut, you'll play some level of NCAA hockey for the most part. And there's only 3 organizations in the entire state.
Yeah.
So they have done a very good job of controlling that piece of it.
Well, Peter, up here, I've been working with the elite U13 up to U18 for a number of years. And I've always thought that the goal was to make the national team because it's elite hockey. And that's the way I looked at it. But now I've really changed my perception of what it's for and what they can accomplish. And Tom, I think it's realistic that any girl that can play AA U18 or AAA U18, they should be capable of going to a college here. Not a university, but some colleges have 2-year programs, 4-year programs, and provide the professional environment, full-time paid coaches, and scholarships. And Tom coached at State and had a number of years there. They got a good hockey experience, but they came up somewhat distorted by their minor hockey and developmental experiences and their cultural differences wherever they were. So I think it's reasonable to expect any kid to get to that level to get a scholarship.
Okay.
Tom, do you think on your team
I woke up with a migraine this morning, so I
could play a
gave
college
myself a shot.
in Alberta someday? Somebody with the speakers on.
We didn't. We're gonna make a bus.
I think that's Hal's speaker.
But Maisie's at school today, so that's good.
Well,
Oh,
these
yeah.
are like when I was coaching in the ACA, if you were a regular on AAA,
Yeah.
you had a really good chance to be at the level for the college level. And really, the better players ended up in the higher league. Like the college level, like Satan, that was very similar to Division 3.
I'll reach out to him again.
So I think if you played regular,
Yeah, it's interesting.
AAA,
Yeah,
you
it's like
probably could play.
if there's times he wants,
Alberta
you know,
College
I
or
will say if
Div 3.
you want, you know, let me know. But
They're all pretty good players.
just tell us when if you just tell us when he's available.
Yeah.
You know, but people who are funny like that, like, you know, Grace Brown's nephew was like, you know, I gave him all these dates. He's like, well, those don't work because I'm, you know, supposed to go to February, and I am traveling sometime in February. It's like, okay, well, so how about you tell me the days you're available?
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Yeah, hell, your speaker's on. So we're picking up your conversation.
Oh,
Now, Tom,
there
know,
we go.
regardless of where they go, Peter, and I'm looking at these girls sitting with parents at practices and at games, especially, and they're really happy. Nobody that, you know, there's nobody that visibly looks distracted with the outcomes, overly concerned only about their child. But it does go on. There's that noise in the background, apparently, that some of the coaches worry about at some of the levels. But I really think that regardless of where they play, they come out of it better people. But some of them have to go through, like you say, experiences that aren't that positive. Losing 12-0 does nothing for your psyche or your development. And coaches who only focus on the outcomes and the winning and those top players, I think, tend to create an environment that's not conducive to long-term success. So,
Yeah, well, I agree with you on the point that you made for sure about. I just feel like, for whatever reason, the girls do not that there aren't exceptions to this, but they do a much better job of putting things in perspective and enjoying the experience than the guys do. I really think that, having, you know, coached girls high school for about 6 years, and then my observations now when I watch female players train and play the game, they do a much better job of keeping things in perspective. Doesn't mean they're not competitive. Doesn't mean you don't have players that want to and will play NCAA, will go on to play pro. Just as far as the enjoyment of the experience, I think they do a better job as people. I'm not sure why that is, but I think it is.
I'm sort of wondering who's responsible for providing that experience and providing the perspective.
Is it social? Is it social because just inherently women are more nurturing than men? Maybe it's something as simple as that, or as complicated as that, depending on how you look at it.
See, I don't have that experience that the girls enjoy it more than the guys. I think my experience is pretty even. You know, it depends on people you have on your team. You know, a few idiots can ruin any team.
Yeah,
Or parents that are really negative.
Yeah, I think it depends too on the level. Like, you're coaching a high level, right? So the level you're coaching.
Yeah, but I've coached a lot of community too.
Well, Tom, when you began, Hal was talking about playoffs. They're happening now. And he said something about shortening the bench because it's playoffs.
Yeah, well, he said the teams they play will probably just play 2 lines.
Yeah.
But that's up to the coach, you know, and every coach is different.
Yeah.
I'm sure some teams they play won't just play 2 lines.
Yeah, and there's some that play one. They go 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2,
Well,
3,
Red
1.
Deer, number 3 on Red Deer, we played last on Saturday.
Yeah,
She played 29 minutes.
yeah. That's the beauty of Instagram, because the message you're delivering when you do that is it's about winning only. And in the end, I don't know if they're gonna. Well, I don't believe those teams will win the league, and I don't care if they do. I think watching your two teams play last weekend, Tom, what a joy! Competitive hockey. Your team had a heck of a game. Went up to Red Deer and beat them in their own barn. And I just see you doing things the right way in terms of you found that balance of bench management, combinations of players that play, everybody feels valued, and you got a real happy parent group. I guess it might be one of the stronger parent groups you've had, eh?
Well, it depends on it is a really strong group. Tell you, they make sure they get your food. I get a couple of emails about what I want for breakfast on Saturday morning going to Lethbridge, and they feed us well. That's for sure.
You deserve to be spoiled.
Yeah, this is a good bunch, but you know what? We picked parents too, because last year we had about 3 real negatives, so we want to avoid those people. And Emily coached spring hockey, and she really knows. So we had some no-go list of ones we didn't want,
Yeah,
because a few bad people can ruin everything. They sit in the background backstabbing the coaches all the time.
yeah.
No,
I even, so
Tom, I got a question for you. Those,
yeah.
so those one people that you didn't pick, those kids, those families, do they go to another team within your organization, or are
Well,
they
we had a 3-team
around?
draft. There's a 3-team draft. So they're all playing on different teams, just not ours.
But in your organization, they're still in your organization.
Yeah, if they're good enough, they're playing in our organization.
Okay.
And we just avoided them because it undermines your team,
No, I agree 100% with that. I mean, even with me when I was in prep school, like I say, the Division I coaches, their number one question was, tell me about the parents.
Yeah.
Right. That it's easy as a scout to know if a kid can play or not, but
Yeah.
you don't know about the.
Yeah.
Go to the go to
Yeah,
your
that's
the invite in the calendar, not in Teams.
I'm
For
gonna
some
get
reason that's not
another call.
okay. Oh,
I find that sometimes some women that played some pretty good hockey, I found they can be really, really negative. They get this view that they know everything about everything. But that's my experience.
So let me ask
And then
you that.
some of them are fantastic.
So that's it. That's interesting and curious you say that. So those particular individuals, do you feel like their collegiate experience was positive or negative, and does that play into it all? Why how they act out?
Well, I don't know. They ended up playing high level. Some of them played for Wally on the Oval Extreme, and some played a little bit in the national team. And that's just a couple. A couple of that are my experience. I probably shouldn't even say it, but I mean, they're just some real negative people that I've either coached or had as parents. They just think they know everything about everything, and they have a limited background.
And the unfortunate thing about that is once you think you know everything, you've stopped your ability to learn. And that's the great thing about this sport is regardless of what you've accomplished, you can still learn. You can either
And
learn.
that's why we're on this call today, right?
Right. Or you can learn, or what you feel you know is correct can be reinforced. Right.
Yeah.
Either way. So that's unfortunate that it happens. I mean, I see it all the time. Even down to the grassroots level.
Tom, speaking of learning, um, honest to God, I feel I'm learning more now than I've learned before. I've been running these ice times with the U13 teams. We're working on offensive attack, direct attacks, drive skating. I've tried every progression that I've done over many years of hockey school, like you, and you've done it all too, the checking stream and you name it. And I made some serious mistakes with that progression with the U13 girls. And I've run every ice time I've done differently from one to the next because I learned from the previous one. And last night was a perfect example trying to teach drive skating. So, Tom, just for the technical side of things, U13, how do you teach drive skating? What did you do when you worked younger ages and below to teach drive skating going to the net? Because it's something that they don't do well enough.
Well, I just say there's keys that if you get your shoulder in front, you got to cut in front of the defender. You know, keep your feet moving and protect the puck. And when they're reaching in, don't have the puck on your stick because they can whack your stick, right? And the puck goes flying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really a lot of things in a person's mind how hard they want to go. Like I've got one player that could score twice as much if she ever did drive skate really fast, but ends up, going wide of the dot. And then I got a real young one that now is starting to drive skate. She'd lose it. Now she's hanging on to the puck. And right now is my most effective forward because she drive skates all the time. So a lot of it, I think, is your temperament, how hungry you are to go to that net. Because you can show people how to do things, but that's a blood and guts thing, going to the net and drive skating, right?
Yeah. Well, Tom, if you don't mind, what I did last night was they players skate around the circle with the puck, one on the inside with a partner providing cooperative pressure, so they had to protect the puck skating around the circle. And then they had to go the other way. And then, because they were having trouble, the coaches demonstrated how to do it, and they got a better picture of it. But there were literally some players who didn't even want to get touched when they had the puck. So they didn't make contact. And I wondered if it was because it's too shy or they've never been taught contact confidence in that feeling of fighting for space and using your body to keep space. So after the circle drive, I discovered last night the next step is a one race one drive skating drill. And if you could visualize this, a player on the board blue line going to the net to score with a puck, but a player on the dot without a puck checking you. So you give a head start to the skater. And I've got to draw that up again today because I've done it before years ago. But here I've spent 4 practices with different teams and not getting results that I expect in the time I've spent. So that's what I mean by finding the right thing to do. But you're right, Tom. It's the mindset. Do they really want to do it, and will they do it?
Yeah, it's you gotta be willing to take a little grief if you're gonna go to the net. That's for sure.
Yeah. I just think the kids need to be taught more at U13, and the best ones that do make U15. You said they need to drive skate more, and they need to take advantage of gaining space and time. And last night, Tom, they did a evasive turn coming up the wall and walking in and shooting at different seams. And every one of the kids died in the turns, slowed down. And so I made them do the drill you've done, interrupted their practice. They skated around the rink on the dot line inside ice. And on the whistle, they faked inside, went outside, and accelerated. And the idea of crossing under and over, catapulting out of the turn is so important to gaining space. And I think it needs to be practiced, taught at every level, occasionally at some, but especially at U13, it has to be done, mastered, and reminded again till it is a habit. It's a matter of doing it naturally. That's the ultimate of deliberate practice. Everybody I see running practices, Tom, it's not necessarily deliberate practice. It's game-like practice, which is good for the hockey IQ. But the tactical skills, they'll get better at just doing drills. But if they can't tight turn, da-da-da-da.
Well, you have to combine. You don't just, like, you don't just do deliberate practice and you don't just do game like. You gotta combine things, right?
Find the balance, eh? Peter, and Hal, are you back on, Hal?
Yeah, I'm here.
This
Yeah.
idea of deliberate practice and game-like or random practice, it's sort of the line between how you develop your IQ. Random is decision making, competitive situations. You don't know when you're going to pass, protect. And deliberate, it's predictable. You're rehearsing something, passing from the same place, skating the same pattern, and hopefully getting better at the passing and the skating. But to what degree do your coaches deal with teaching progressions and deliberate practice, Peter?
Yeah. For me, it's funny you say that because this past Monday we actually had I have a monthly coaches meeting, and that was actually our my main topic with them was should have been happening right along, and we do mention it, but now we're coming into that situation where tryouts will be coming up in about 6-7 weeks. You've got kids who are second years, right? Because I hear you play at a level for 2 years and you move up to the next level. Those kids that are aging out and going to the next level need to be prepared now to have some ability to be able to execute and understand what playing at that next higher level may be, moving from a 9-10-year-old team to a team with 11 and 12-year-olds is different. So we talked quite a bit about the importance of them now emphasizing the random and game-like piece so that these kids are more prepared, because they work really hard on the skill piece, but they don't do a great job of mixing the three things together. So that was actually a main topic, Wally, about doing certain types of drills that will teach and develop the IQ, because that's going to be the best advantage some of these kids have. Because if you're a first year player trying to make a team that maybe has 8 or 9 second year players on it, physically you're not quite as mature as those players yet. So your ability to know the game and be able to play the game itself better is a big advantage. So I've been trying to get them to understand that and incorporate that into their practices and kind of really push that as we get closer to tryouts here.
Here you are at the end of the year pushing to that. And I said to our coaches last night, next year, one of the dads is a head coach. His daughter is staying on the team. He's going to coach it next year. And I believe he's going to spend more time on deliberate practice early in the season than he has, because everybody gets into drills and does the drills, and let the drills teach and let the game teach us. It works. But the frustration last night near the last third of the season, watching them try to execute a tight turn and accelerate after having a whole season, was a lesson to me of we have to do more deliberate practice early.
Oh, somebody's playing.
Take a call from my daughter, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. I thought for a minute there, well, I was going to start dancing. I didn't know what was going on.
That's a Hockey Night in Canada theme song.
All right.
The old one
Awesome.
when
That's
CBC
awesome.
used to have it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like along with that, we're kind of the opposite right now in that organization, is because we've emphasized how important skating is, how important your stick skills are, but trying to get them during the year to create the proper mix of that has been challenging. So now, I mean, again, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can give them the drills, you can explain to them the importance of it, but until they choose to actually do it and recognize that that's why maybe a player does move or doesn't move, because that's your responsibility, right? I don't care what level you're coaching at. Your responsibility is to give those kids the best opportunity to achieve whatever goals they have. And when you're giving the tools to do that, it's on you to get that done, right? And if you don't, then that's on you too. And that's a different discussion.
I try to have the first part of every practice just skills, skating and puck handling and passing, and then I'll have a theme for the practice that will focus on that. Cassie had a really good little drill the other day on Tuesday. She saw the Toronto Scepter or whatever, the pro team there.
Okay.
She was down. She played in some game down there. I don't know. But anyways, you pass to your partner, and she said their coach does this at the start of every practice. You pass to your partner, then you skate, take their stick, turn your rear end into them, and then skate away with the puck. And then they do the same thing with you. So I want to get her to do it tonight. And I'll take a little video clip of it. I haven't seen that before, but she said they do it at the start of every practice.
Tom, make sure you send a video of that to me so I can see that. Sounds great. Is that a puck protection thing?
No, it's a check-in thing. Like I pass to you, you've got the puck. I skate to you, I lift your stick, and turn my back end. You think of Kachuk, how he does that all the time. I turn my back into you, box you out with my rear end, then I skate away. So it's a simple little drill, but there's a lot of good things are in it, right?
I think that's the difference there is at that level, national level, that they have players there, and that's coach at the national level there. They do those simple things. A simple drill like that versus a double regroup attack drill. They
warm up with that, but they'll end up doing a double regroup attack.
Oh, they will all the time. But you have to provide those little subtle progressions early in the year to accomplish doing the right thing. Tom, right now, the U13 teams, they do a regroup attack drill. They follow the puck and play a second puck. and they always finish with a pass to the point. And you know, the shooting range, the work the girls have done at U13, their shots are every bit as good from the point as your level because they've learned to shoot. And the defensemen, because they shoot stationary at the shooting range, they're stationary when they receive it. The power and accuracy of their shots blows me away. So I don't know if you guys do any of the shooting range, but boy, it's going to pay off. When you see those kids coming up, the defensemen, their shooting is,
We go to the shooting range every Wednesday.
well, it's incredible. It's really
And some of
paid
the
off.
girls can really shoot, and it isn't a team thing.
Yeah.
A lot of it's strength. You know, some of the little girls, they don't have a whole lot of strength, but then you get that little Ella, and she can shoot it along with any bantam boy, probably.
Yeah.
Hard she shoots.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get her to shoot without having to dust the puck off first.
Yeah.
So,
Tom, I want to ask all of you this one question. In all your years of coaching, who have you coached that you were found really benefited from deliberate practice the most? In other words, they worked at it, they worked at it, they worked at it, and they listened to what you were saying.
well, I think Danny Heatley's the one, but it had nothing to do with me. He just had a net and he shot and shot and shot all the time.
Yeah. Hal, are you there, Peter? Like I'm talking about players like Marty Jelena and Haley who contacted me to do individual work with them when I was working with the national team. And I mean, it's 1 hour of deliberate practice with a player. And they were evaluating me. Was I doing anything with them that helped? And the fact they went at that level, pursued to improve, not many people do that. Some of the very best do that. And I'm just wondering, in minor hockey, Peter, at what age are there kids that you notice that just get dialed in like you can't imagine and try to do things as right as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any formula. I think it's an individual thing. I mean, even at the college level, I saw the players that came to you that wanted to get better were either your best players or the guys that weren't in the lineup. The other group just seemed happy enough to be there. And I think it's a similar thing. What I'm saying in again, this is your town youth hockey. It's not your AAA piece. AAA is different. But in the town youth hockey, you'll see that, if you want to use a phrase, diamond in the rough. You'll see that kid who skates well, knows the game, is in the right spot at the whole time. I mean, and that's a kid who is, when they're going home, they're shooting 100 pucks, and they get up in the morning and they do some push-ups. And those are the kids that will improve to what level, who knows, right? But those are the kids that will improve to that. But it's your high achieving athletes who are happy but not satisfied. That's a term I always use. Remember when we made the playoffs my last year there, and we knocked off a very competitive team in the quarters, and then we knocked off the number one team who had only lost 3 games the whole year in the semis to go to the finals. And I remember president of the university catching me in the parking lot walking to the rink, and he said, you don't seem really happy. You guys, I understand you had quite a game. And I said, I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied because I haven't reached ultimately where I think we can be. And I think it's the same thing for those individuals. I think that's why they end up achieving and getting to the pro level And then as a pro, continuing on, when you just have that in your DNA, so to speak, that you want to always get better and you want to always achieve and be, like I say, being happy, but not satisfied can go a long way in whatever you do in your life as far as making your achievements.
Peter, I wrote down that phrase. It's excellent. Sometimes you win and you think you're the greatest, and you forget you shouldn't be satisfied with just winning.
Yeah, and Wally, I'll tell you, we've all coached teams where we've won games and like the players were really all excited, and you're like, we kind of won that one despite what we did, not necessarily because of what we did. You know, maybe you got a lucky bounce, maybe your power play that was just okay for some reason went 2 out of 3 that day, right? Sometimes you just win despite what you're doing, and that's as you as a coach to discern. You let your players be happy, but you learn from that as a coach that we can win, but we need to win the right way as well.
Yeah. Tom, I don't want to rain on the Flames parade, but they've won games that Wolf has won for them.
That's true, but you know what? They lost to Washington the other day, and I thought they were a better team by quite a bit. So sometimes you don't win when you play well.
Yep.
They made 3 big mistakes and ended up in the net on every one, and then their goalie was fantastic.
Yep. You can't control that, and they. I agree with you. They played a great game. And I think that whole idea of how do you evaluate yourself as a player? And one coach, when I work with midget AA boys, not every game, but I think once a week, last game of the week, he had them rate themselves 1 to 10 on their game. Just, was it 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 5 out of 10? And he got them back from the players in terms of how they thought they played. And he just filtered that information and sort of, he had a thing in his toolbox about, should I push him? Do I need to wake him up? Do I need him to get to temper his expectations? And I just think it's self-awareness for the player to be conscientious that they're good, but they need to get better, and they can get better because, wow, it's pretty fundamental things that they're not good at that they can learn and master. So, Hal, do you feel players never stop improving because of practice in games?
Well, what I do, pursuant to what you were just sort of chatting about there, I shake hands with every player after every game, and I'll stop and talk to them. I mean, it's not just shake hands, good job, buddy. It could be, if I saw one struggling, I'd say, how do you think you played tonight? And they'll go, I was a little off tonight. Okay, what's that about? We talk about it, and or maybe I need to get better at this. And I said, well, we'll do that at practice. Okay, just remind me. So, but then the interesting part is some guys who, you know, they aren't very self-aware, and they go, oh, I think I played great. And sometimes I would differ to, agree with them, but I mean, to disagree with them. But I think all what you guys are talking about it's all great because it is designed to give them a little bit of a sense of awareness, as we were talking about. And let me see here. You went real tiny on me on my screen, but a long time ago, I did a player's manual, which was a little, can you see me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, so it was about this big. I could show it to you guys. I could dig it out. And there was a page there for every game. And then it was like a diary. And I did that as part of my USA Hockey master coaching certification or something back in the 80s.
Hal, please send that to me to share if you can find it,
Yeah,
because you did that how many years ago?
that I did it. It was in the 80s.
I wasn't even born then.
Quit lying, Tombo. But here's what I'm saying is stuff you did that many years ago. Here we are talking about it now.
I know.
So I think anything like that, if you can pass it on, this I can share it with a network of coaches to share with everybody. Every player has to learn to look at themselves and evaluate themselves and then have a path to follow, a direction to do something to get better at. That's where the coaching comes in. Go ahead, Peter, on that. You were talking about the self-awareness and the fact they rated themselves. How often was it?
Yeah, I mean, we would always meet periodically during the year, where we would talk about those things. And that's funny you say that, because that was always a pet topic of mine, really, was being self-aware. That's the hardest thing to do. I mean, and even as a coach, right, you need to do the same thing. If you're going to be doing the best you can for your players, is you need to be aware, and you need to self-evaluate too. And the important thing, I think, is trying to teach the players that when you self-evaluate, and if you feel there's something that's maybe you can improve on, it doesn't mean that you're a bad player. It doesn't mean that you can't play the game. It probably means that you're more self-aware, maybe, than a player that just says, yeah, you know what, I do everything, I'm okay. And maybe I could be a little faster, maybe I could be a little stronger. The players that give you really vague and types of answers, I think, are the individuals that don't have a lot of self-confidence, and are probably self-aware but afraid to voice it because they see it as a matter of weakness. So especially as they get older, I think teaching them that it's not a sign of weakness when you feel that you need to improve on something. Like that's okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I got two questions. At what age and level do players improve the most? Yeah, that's the question. That's one question. I'm talking minor hockey. Is there an age where they just taper and level off and it is what it is? And then at the pro level, how do they improve? And Tom, when I talk pros, Connor Zary is the best example of improving and in an exponential manner after a few years in the American League.
Yeah, well,
So-
they put him with that skating coach, that Danielle, because he always had the hands and all that, and she really helped his skating. But Wayne Gretzky, I just heard him talk about Marty McSorley, and he made the Oilers because he was a fighter, right? He said McSorley, after every practice, he'd go to an outdoor rink and work on his own for an hour or two, and he made himself skilled enough to play in the NHL, like, not just as a fighter.
He went to the boxing ring.
No, he didn't. He went to outdoor ice, like in Edmonton. It's 11 and a half months a year. And he just worked on his own to become a better hockey player.
Yeah,
Because he made it as a fighter, right?
yeah,
And
I
he
saw
said-
that. I saw that too, Tom. But that's what we're speaking about here, right? Is like, so, but what was that in him? Like, right? That wasn't somebody going up to him and saying, boy, you know what? If you really want to stay in this league, you better go out and find some ice and work on everything. Like, he somehow was self-aware, we were just talking about, and also had the drive to improve, because he probably would have been fine saying, you know what? They're paying me to fight. I'll fight. And that's what I'll do. It's pretty easy. But he wanted more for himself. So like, where does that come from? Right? That's the question. I mean, if you knew the answer, right? None of us would be sitting here. We'd be, we'd be counting our money. But that's
that's
really
him, right? That's him.
Yeah, right. Where did that come from, right?
But to
He wants
answer
to become a player.
Wally's question, I don't think there's one. I think as skill sets take time to learn over 15 years, and some skills are, kids will make great improvement when they're in that U12, U10, U12 range. Personally, I think that the next level, which that bantam, we call it bantam. I don't know what you guys call it up in Canada.
Well, we did until all this U stuff started.
So the U15, partly because they're going through puberty, and when they do, you find out who's a hockey player and who's not, and they go through. They don't all go through the door the same day, right? It's a couple of year differential, and there is, it's not only the physical, but it's the mental development that the kids have. So the research says that your chronological age is not necessarily your developmental age. You could be 4 years younger or 4 years older. So, to that, I had a kid in Bantams that was shaving twice a day.
Yeah.
And, but he never grew another inch bigger. And then, then that was when Blake Wheeler, that was that team he was on. He was like 6 feet tall as a Bantam. Eventually grew to 6'5" over the next 5 or 6 years. And it took him a long time to kind of, catch up, and his body was growing constantly, and he was always trying to adapt to it. People ask me, what's your favorite age to coach? I say the Bantam age, because you can do a lot of work with those kids. They're not all ready, but you can start to help them understand what it means to be an athlete. And then I thought coaching junior hockey was great too, because they all want something. They want to go to the next level, and they are coachable. Most of them are coachable, and they're now, all of those kids have gone through puberty for the most part. And now you see what kind of an engine that kid has, each kid has. And then it's about, what do they want? What are they willing to give? I always say, what are you willing to give up to get something else? Because you have to give up something. You can't have everything, right? You can't have a great social life, can't have this, can't have that, and become a great athlete. You've got to put in the work. And right now there's so many, I would think there's, 10 or 15,000 kids playing junior hockey just in the United States. And then we've got, the CHL players are all going to, in theory, are going to come down and play college hockey. And that's going to really limit the kids from the U.S. Opportunities in college hockey. I just got a text here. UMass, University of Massachusetts, has already got 29 D1 commits. 29.
How many scholarships do they have?
Now I think they have 20. I'm going to say 26. I might be off by
I
one.
heard that number 20 because it was 18, wasn't it?
It was 18, but it was 18 full rides, or you could split them up because they always had 25 kids. Now everybody gets a full ride.
Pretty expensive for the schools, eh?
Yeah, so if a school has a lot of money, they can have, I think some schools will have less. This is going to be a problem, I think, for some schools. That's a lot of money. And I don't know what the Ivy Leagues are going to do. I don't know how they handle the financial part of their, because they don't technically give athletic scholarships.
But I guess they just don't charge. They don't have to charge tuition because there's the ones that get it.
I guess that's right. I mean, they'll figure it out if they want to be competitive.
Yeah.
But then what are the Canadians? So what's going to happen in junior hockey? Because I know.
Well, that league that you work with is all designed to get people to the NCAA, right? And now with this major junior can go, it's quite a big difference.
Well, the major junior
Trail
kids,
team.
they're getting paid. Well, trails not, but major juniors get paid, right? But if they come, if they come down to if they come down and go to college, US, they not only are going to get free tuition, but they're going to get NIL money. They can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, not like football. We got football players making $1 million a year in college now. Basketball players more. Hockey will be less, but you've got 1,500 kids up there in the major juniors. You got 3 leagues: Maritime, East Coast, and the West Coast League. And it's a lot of kids, and we got 10,000 kids down here that all want to fill that pipeline going up into D1 hockey. So we got a little off topic while you were gone there, Wally.
No, I know it. I'm curious about it because a lot of players from the Western Hockey League, which is a great developmental league for the NHL, they're choosing to go to NCAA next year. Some of them, that's public knowledge.
Yeah.
So there's going to be fewer spots available. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad for Canadian hockey in terms of Canadian colleges.
Right.
But the hockey players are going to be pros at university now. The money they make, college athletics make, is created an entertainment business inside of the university where student athletes don't mean anything anymore. And I'm of the mindset I'm more worried about student athletes than I am professional athletes. They'll get there, they'll look after themselves, and we're doing what we can to help them. But the larger number that we can make a bigger difference with is those athletes that are students and are going to come out of whatever education they get from playing hockey, and they're going to be better for it. So it just shouldn't hurt them, and it won't.
No, I agree. And you've got, those top end kids will go right to the NHL anyways, go to pro. But it's that next level of junior player out of, your Canadian junior leagues that can now go to NCAA, and they can play at a high level for another 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Before they go pro.
Well, I heard the Michigan coach talk about it, and he said, well, why would a really good player want to play major junior when you're playing against 16, 17-year-olds, a lot of the team,
right?
When they can be playing against men, so that, if they get drafted, call up, they're way more ready to play, pro. And that was his deal, is to sell the, play for them instead of play for the Ottawa 67s or something.
Yeah.
I think
that the BCHL wants to go head to head with the USHL, but those are young kids. Some of them are 16 years old, like you say, Tom.
Yeah.
And I go, why would a 19 or 20-year-old want to go down and play with a bunch of high school kids?
Well, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
He said, so it's, way better for them to come and play for me and play against men.
Yeah.
And be more ready for. So it's a really big change. The BCHL, I mean, they withdrew from Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
It's an outlaw league, and now it's kind of a moot point.
Right.
Have that league. Now these kids can't play for provincial teams or in national championships or anything because they're an outlaw league, eh? So
right.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there.
Hal, where do you think it goes So you see it right now in football in the States, right? Have a great season at Team A, but Team B is really good. They look like they could be in the hunt for a national championship. So I'm jumping right into that transfer portal
Yep.
because I've already had there's been some conversations. They're not supposed to be, but likely somebody's uncles, cousins, friends, brother talk to somebody,
Yep.
right? So is that going to make it way, and I don't see why it wouldn't, into hockey now with that player who comes down, gets their NLI money, plays on a team, just is really, really good. All of a sudden, maybe a top, Hockey East team or, CCHA or whoever it may be, decides, you know what, we'd love to have that kid. And all of a sudden that kid's in the transfer portal. Because in the past, you went in the transfer portal because you were mad at your coach and you didn't play enough. That's why you went into the transfer portal. But now it's going to be an economic reason to do it.
I don't know.
What's a school like Bemidji going to do with all this? I'm sure they don't have the money Michigan does to pay anybody, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it's a huge. I mean, the Gopher football coach quarterback this year it was his 5th year of college football. Came in for 1 year, and I think they paid him $1 million.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
And now he's gone, and now they got to go find somebody else. The other thing, I mean, this is even happening at here, like in Minnesota, kids leave one school and go another. They have the high school league used to be pretty tight. You have to sit out a year if you transfer, unless you got a legitimate reason, or if you move, which means rent an apartment, move into it for a couple months in the new, in a different town, and then you could do it. Or you could say, well, I can't afford this private school tuition anymore. I'm going back to my public school. And they go, well, okay. And a few people have sued them. So, players can move around. But now you've lost this whole concept of team, right? And now it's, everybody's like, they're playing for themselves. They're playing for their spots. They're playing for the money. They're playing for themselves. And I think that's hard. I mean, from a coaching perspective, and I know some of these high-end coaches, basketball coaches, are saying, "No, I'm done. I don't, this is." I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like my team right now, half the kids I coached last year at the lower level, and they're on this team. Half the kids were either on the B team or the A team last year. But I'm really just getting to know them. And we're going to be done in a month. So it's that second year when they know you and you know them. You build that relationship with the players, so you know how to coach. You know how to coach Wally versus Billy, and they all have different needs, and they all have. And every year they all kind of fit into the team in a different puzzle. And when you got guys coming and going, and when I coached at Augsburg College, I was an assistant coach there, and we had a goalie that came out of Canada. He was a freshman, and then we had a couple of kids that were from North Dakota that weren't getting any ice time, so they came down. And that Canadian goalie, we literally rode him all the way to the national, the Frozen Four. He was so good. And we had 9 goalies. And he, and the couple of goalies that had been playing there for 4 years didn't get any ice time. And this one kid jumped in ahead of him. Is that fair? I don't,
Well, the other thing too that I worry about is the ability of, again, talking right now Division I, the ability of those coaches to actually be able to do their job versus having to be concerned with keeping key players
Yeah,
happy in order to win games.
I agree. And players are playing a game. So there was a kid at Minnesota who's pretty good. He's got a brother playing in the National Hockey League, and he wanted to go pro after last year. And so he tried to do that, and it didn't work. But now Bob Motzko, who's the coach at Minnesota, told him, says, well, I need an answer from you by July, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that came and went, and he said, okay. Bob goes, well, you're not part of the program anymore. And
That's the only way you can run a program too.
pardon?
I believe that's the only way you can run a program, if you
Right.
can have a successful one.
And that kid actually went to he's down at Mankato now. And he's a really good player, and their father played in the National Hockey League. But these kids are little. They're 5'7", 5'8", and but that's how they used to go out and look at high school kids. Now they're in the transfer portal. And
Right. Yeah.
you talk about the amount of time and energy you have to spend as a coach in the off season. I mean, I don't know that they pay these guys enough money as hockey coaches, because they don't have staffs. They got three coaches is all you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can have a fourth volunteer coach. What's that all about? I mean, come on. But
A lot of recruiting's hard,
really hard.
And you know what was really hard is when I was coaching in the 80s with no cell phones.
Oh yeah.
So, waiting for a call from somebody, and I'd stay home instead of go do things, and the call wouldn't come, and
Oh,
it was really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think the recruiting part is really hard, obviously. But now the other element, like Hal's talking about, has been added, where your recruiting is never over. Like, you can't, it's a sophomore or junior, you can't not be, constantly involved. I have friends that coach Division I hockey, and they said they're on the transfer portal every single day, making sure none of their guys are on in the transfer portal. But it's not like they come. It's not like they come to you, knock on your door for the most part, and say, "Oh, coach, by the way, I'm going in the transfer portal." They don't do that either. So he said, you're checking every single day to make sure that, first off, none of your players are in it, and then are there other players you could find that you could add to your program from that? So it's like, to Hal's point, like the days of, we're just going to take a few weeks off here, recharge our batteries, and we'll get back at it. You do that today, and you got 6 guys that aren't playing for you anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you a story. I really went after this one guy. We didn't have any restrictions, so he led some minor league in scoring, and he wanted to get into aircraft maintenance. This is at SAIT, and there's a 2-year waiting period. So I called everybody. I moved mountains to get this guy, accepted. And first day of school, he doesn't show up. I've never met the guy, and he never showed up. And about 15 years later, he wrote me a letter apologizing. And I think he was in the 12-step program for AA.
oh.
Where you make up all
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that you did to people.
Yeah.
And then that same season, I also had a guy, and this agent got him to play at SAIT. Wally used to coach him. And I got back, and the agent got him there. And I got back after Christmas. I said, okay, Teddy's line, you guys go down there, work on the power play, and the other guys come with me. And the guy says, Tom, Teddy went to England yesterday to play hockey. So the agent got him a pro job. So that was my 2 top centers. Gonzo right there.
Yeah. And again, we all have, I think, those stories, right? When I was coaching prep school, I remember there was this kid, we were same thing like you, we were on this kid all the time. And the kid and the parents said, Coach, if we go anywhere, we're not sure if we're gonna go juniors, if we're gonna go prep school. If we go anywhere, we're coming to you. Well, I think their GPS might have been off because they ended up at a prep school that was 25 minutes up the road. So I think they missed us. I think that's what happened.
You should have given me your address.
Yeah. Yes.
Guys, I want to bring this into perspective at our level. Number one, recruitment. Next challenge, retention. You have no control over that because they're there to do what they want to do wherever they want to do it. And Chris Battle was on last week, coaches Div 3. I asked him that question. How many of your players are going to want to jump to Division 1 after a year of Division 3? And he really gave a solid explanation of his expectation about loyalty, the team, why he expected them to stay. I don't know whether they will or not, but his discussion was providing the experience he deserves the respect of the participants in it to stay with the program. They may jump, they may not jump. Tom, there was a meeting last night. You might not know about this, maybe you do. We have trouble retaining players in girls hockey Calgary at U18 AAA. The graduates of Tom's league, if they don't make AAA, they're going to go to prep schools. But last night, the AAA team, the new one, has a meeting, and the parents are paying, I am not sure, a $5,000 fee that will be given back to them if they stay with the program next year. If they don't, that money will be used in a scholarship fund with the girls that stay with Girls Hockey Calgary. So the association is trying to stay with us. We can do a good job. And they are. But the girls that are jumping ship, leaving too soon, and Tom at U15 to go to AAA, to midget, it's 3 years. They need a year of AA, most of them. But they're not willing to and don't appreciate the importance of that time to get there.
Well, I sent the coaches a deal of all my second-year players about whether they could play AA or AAA or even make those, just to give an idea about what level they'll be ready for next year. It is hard playing first year. You're playing against people 2 years older than you, where they're used to playing people 1 year older than them, right? So,
Wally, has there been any discussion with that in terms of, so you're saying that, right, if you stay with us, you get your 5,000 back. If you don't, you don't. Is there any discussion of the fact that that's just going to be a tool that those better players that want to go to prep school will use as leverage with that prep school? Listen, I'd love to come play for you, but here's my situation. It's going to cost me $5,000. Can you help me out?
who can afford $5,000 out of their budget as a deposit? I mean,
Prep
a lot of
schools here.
people, but a lot of families can't afford that.
No, but it's
I
not
could have
out of
never
your budget,
afforded
but
that.
it's not out of your budget anymore, right? If you're a top player, and Tom, I say you can come play for me, and we'll make sure you get that financial aid back, so that $5,000 for you is a wash. Like I'm saying, you're going to see that. That's, I mean, not in every situation, but your best players.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like a very good decision to me. Seems like another way to drive more people out of hockey.
Yeah,
Like
I don't listen. I don't.
hockey sticks.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, I could see that happening as well.
We've got, those private schools around the Twin Cities, and the tuition there is like $40,000.
Yeah.
And but every now and then, a school decides that they want to win hockey, and they'll go out and pick up 8, 10, 12 kids, and they don't pay anything. Most of them don't stay all the way through high school. If they're really good, they leave and go to juniors after a couple of years.
Yeah, well, they're there for the hockey, eh?
Yeah, they're not there for the education. And the private school I coached at, if you went to the admissions and say, well, I'm here because I want to play on the hockey team, your application went to the bottom of the pile because they weren't interested in that. They're interested in students. And the other schools would say that they disagree that they're there for athletics, but you can look at Shattuck, and Shattuck's even more expensive, and they attract kids from all over the world, play hockey, play soccer, girls
One of my
hockey.
goalies from last year is at Shattuck.
Yeah, but that's a real sports academy. But how many of those kids are going to end up, Gretzky's son was there for 1 year, and he wasn't that good of a player. Parisi was there. Suter was down there, I think.
Crosby went there too.
I think that, I had coffee with the father and a kid that I'm advising. He's a junior in high school, and I actually coached his coach, and his coach was 15 years old, Bantams. And I haven't seen him for a long time. I said, how's the coaching? The kid goes, nah, not great. And I'm going, oh, well, the coach they had before at that school for a bunch of years is not a great coach. So a lot of reason I think kids leave programs to leave the coaches because they don't have a great relationship with coaches. If you have a great relationship with the players, they want to play for you. They'll stick around, and they'll do what you ask them to do. But that's getting tougher and tougher in this environment because kids move around. And, I've got 3 kids on my team that go to a hockey academy, but it ends after this year, after 8th grade. Then they get to choose which high school they're going to attend, and it might not be ours, the one that where we play. I'm going, well, okay, and I can't. And actually, 2 of them would be eligible for my team next year, and see what happens. I hope they come back because they're good players, and I hope they continue on and play at the high school here because they need them. But small community and people like to win. They want to go to that state tournament. So
yeah. Well, we have this draft. I only got 1 player that played for me last year on my team this year, and one of the other teams we played them on Saturday. They got 7.
the one you beat?
Yeah, well, we beat each other. We're, I think, 1 point up on the season series, but
Yeah.
they got 7 players that play for me because of this draft. Just there's no guarantee, and I know in Finland, coaches, like you were saying, move up with kids for about 4 years.
Yeah.
They do it in their school system too. You get the same teacher for the same reason. You actually know the kid, how they learn, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But you start new all the time. It's
It's hard, and you don't spend enough time with them in reality, to really get to know each other. I try to spend a lot of time in the locker room with the kids because that's where you get to know each other.
That's what's hard about coaching girls.
Got that right.
Yeah, I've got a really good assistant coach that really good with the girls, but it's really difficult for a guy because that part of it is kind of like we're going on a short road trip on Saturday, and I met with almost all. I still got 6 girls to meet with. That I sit in the front and talk to them and this kind of stuff. But it's way more difficult coaching the girls because they really discourage you going in the dressing room when they're there.
Yeah, you gotta be real careful.
One of the last topics, you guys, that I was thinking of earlier when we went off to the NCAA transfer portal topic. Tom, all of you, you've picked players and you had an opportunity to draft and maybe pick them next year or they went to someplace else. How many players that have moved that have not, that you coach, that moved to another coach that improved more than you expected? Anybody?
I don't know. I know one that I couldn't get. She's the best player in the league right now.
Yeah, well, so Tom, I'm sitting back and I'm watching one player that I don't know if you had a chance to pick her or not, but I think she's improved with Shayla. It's that Shimanoff. And I didn't expect her to make that much progress, but she's playing, power play minutes and she's on the list to be called up to play at the next age level.
Yeah, well, she's pretty good, and she was really small last year.
Yeah.
A lot faster now than she was last year.
Yeah. That's where that size comes in with girls, and they get bigger, they get stronger, and
There's a big difference between an 8th grade and a grade 9
Yep.
in size.
Same with the boys too, really huge.
Yeah. Even after Christmas.
the other player that didn't play for you that last year, but when she practiced with Sean, she looked really good at his practices. I never thought, gee, she would make the U15 level until I saw her practice with Sean. She was on a U13 team. And that's the Hillard girl whose sister in goal went to Shattuck's. And I'm watching her with Sean this year. He drafted her, and she's exceeded expectations. So you never know. Some of those players, when you work with them, like you, Tom, you've got a player, I think it's Denholm, that started the year and she was middle of the pack or bottom third, and now she's one of your better players. It looks like you've got a package of players that are really talented in discovering how good they can be. And you're playing with the chemicals, trying to get the mix right.
Yeah.
Like
well,
chemicals.
yeah. And before Christmas, we had everybody doing, rotating through the power play, penalty kill, and all that kind of stuff. So after you kind of can get a little more set things. But yeah, they all grow at different rates too. If they're going through a growth spurt, they might be clumsy for a little while, and all that kind of stuff. That's and that 13 years old for girls is kind of the most hormonal age, I think. I taught junior high for 22 years, so I know that grade 8 is different than all the other grades.
Yep.
And so those are all factors.
We've had this year, we got 2 or 3 kids in the group that weren't in the group before. And one kid, he'd been playing out in some AAA team. And when we did our grading, our scoring in tryouts, which that's a whole nother topic, but he ended up number 1. I thought, wow, this kid's going to really help us. And he also attends a private school. And he was a cancer to the team. He had skills, but he was 100% uncoachable. And You know, we met with him a couple times. And my assistant coach plays, you know, adult hockey with the dad. And so anyways, this kid went over to the other school, you know, over to his high school and tried out, and he made the junior varsity and decided to stay there, which was good for us, totally good for us, because he was bullying kids, he was complaining, he was not cooperating, wouldn't come off the ice. He just, I think, frankly felt that he'd taken a step backwards, even though he was on the fourth line of his AAA team and didn't play much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Like,
there's so many dynamics, right? Because you're dealing with people.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm gonna go in 5 minutes. I don't know if you can see, but it's -3 outside, and the ice is really good. And I want to go
Zach?
skate for 45 minutes.
Guys, I've got a topic that we can continue next week. Your coaching style, everybody's different. I look at all the coaching staffs in girls hockey Calgary, and everyone's different, and in a good way. And some players love certain coaches. The style of the coach matches players' temperament. In fact, players are picked according to that compatibility with the coach. But every one of your kids is going to have to play for somebody different. So part of the job is preparing them to play for somebody different. Somebody might shorten the bench and not be used to it. Someone might be yellers and motivators in a good way or a bad way, and you got to live with it. And it's those kids that have to adapt to the teacher. Every year, a different teacher. Every year, maybe a different coach.
Yep.
And so that's a topic down the road. What's your coaching style? What are the different styles that players respond to that you've coached that we can learn from? So, guys, excellent topic. Tom, have fun at the outdoor rink.
I
Good.
like going now because I'm always the best player.
Tom, you're outdoors?
Yeah, well, I've gone. The best one is Wildwood. They have a Zamboni. I put a little video the other day on skating around there. It's just like glass. And yesterday got really warm in the afternoon. I'm assuming they would have got the Zamboni on the ice at night. And it's just a little below freezing right now, so the ice should be really good.
Are you going alone or are you meeting a group?
Oh no, I'll just go by myself. That's everybody. The kids are in school. Everybody else is, now that we had a group that played there all the time during COVID, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And but now all the indoor rinks, nobody plays outside anymore.
Hal, I just want to remind you, I asked you to provide, what was that? You read a document
Player handbook.
and see if you can find that.
Yeah,
And make
I'll
sure
find
you
it here.
get it to me because it's time to recirculate, revisit. We may be old, but a lot of the things we did over time was pretty good stuff that coaches can still pick up on and benefit from. So
I know where it is, and I'll copy the first several pages of it and get them up to you. So I only have one copy left, so I can't give it away. But
Well, Wally, if you agree with the old saying that history repeats itself, that's exactly what you're talking about here.
yeah.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay, thanks guys for giving the game some direction. Keep up the good work and have a great weekend, everybody.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Okay, see you all. I gotta go score some goals.